Happy Friday, everybody. What's going on? This is Clint from the Die Hard MMA Podcast, and I am presented by Pub Sports Radio. This is the undefeated post-weigh-in recap. That's right. We are taking one final look at the fighters before they step into the cage on Saturday at UFC 265. I watched every single second of their face-offs, of their weigh-ins. I watched them get on the scale, get off the scale, and I look for the slightest little thing. I look for any sign that they may have had a bad weight cut. We put on the tinfoil hat. We talk about crazy theories, people coming in heavy on purpose, whatever we can do to get an extra angle on UFC 265 and put some extra cash in your pocket. It's the best MMA show of the week on the internet today, bar none. Smash the like button for me. Share the video out on this, whatever social media platform you've got available to you, and subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio to keep all this free goodness coming to you. First fight of UFC 265 is going to be Johnny Munhoz taking on Jamie Simmons. Now, Munhoz came in at 135.5 on the scales this morning. He looked good. He gave a really confident flex. He's looked like he really has added some muscle. This kid's been spending time in the gym. Looks excellent, confident, ready to rock. Jamie Simmons came up at 136, and he looked like a freaking big mouth bass. He looked like a fish. He gets up there and goes, I'm not sure. I don't usually try to mock the fighters. I respect every single fighter that has the balls to step into a cage, but something was up with this guy. His mouth was just hanging open. It's his first time at a new weight class. You got to wonder if that cut was a little bit rough on him because he was not quite all there this morning. He gave a quick flex and ran off the stage at the ceremonial weigh-ins. Now, this video is usually out earlier, but of course, for the big pay-per-views, we're back to the crowds and the ceremonial face-offs and things like that, so it comes out a bit later for you guys. Munhoz is a decent bit taller and longer. I'll be honest. Jamie Simmons dropping a weight class. I expected him to have a bit of a size advantage here in this one, and he is obviously thicker than his opponent Munhoz, but the height and the reach for Munhoz was something that was more than I expected. So that's another thing that really just kind of edges in the favor of Johnny Munhoz to me. It was a respectful face-off, but you know what? I was kind of starting to question my Johnny Munhoz lean on this one. Obviously, I'm not betting him. I'm not parlaying him at minus 300. It's a little bit steep. I honestly feel like it's a bit of a dog or pass situation in this kind of a spot. But I don't like that anymore. I thought that Simmons was going to look a little bit more physical in there. I thought his answer to this fight was going to be the grappling, was going to be the offensive, wild man style striking that we see from him, maybe clipping Munhoz early. But after seeing the face-offs and seeing the size difference, I really just am far more confident in Johnny Munhoz than I was before. I've got the under, or the fight doesn't go the distance, at minus 150. I do think that Johnny Munhoz ends up tapping Jamie Simmons in this fight. However, I can't rule out the fact that Jamie Simmons may come in here like a wild man and bomb on Munhoz. If he gets in top position using his wrestling, the ground and pound could be a big deal. So I've decided to just go with violence on this one. I laid 1.5 units at minus 150. The fight doesn't go the distance, but in my Hail Mary parlays, I'm probably going to include some Johnny Munhoz inside the distance or Johnny Munhoz by submission. Next up, Victoria Leonardo taking on Melissa Gatto. Leonardo came in at 125. Gatto came in at 124. There were no issues with Victoria Leonardo. She looked good on the scales. Nothing to report really there. Melissa Gatto was the big question mark because we haven't seen this girl in a long, long time. First time seeing her at the UFC level, and she was absolutely shredded. She is jacked, in an excellent shape. She's put in some serious work, and those of you who may not know, the reason that she took that 3 years off is because she got popped from USADA. She got flagged for some kind of performance-enhancing drug, and now she looks the best we've ever seen her. Gotta wonder if maybe she just didn't get a better doctor in her off time here. It was an extremely intense face-off. These two got up on top of each other here, and Gatto, surprisingly, did have a bit of a size advantage. Now, she was wearing flip-flops. We need to note, Victoria Leonardo was barefoot, Gatto was wearing flip-flops, but the fact that if you take those flip-flops off, they're about the same size. I thought Victoria Leonardo was going to have a significant size advantage in this fight, and that is simply not the case. If anything, they're the same size. Victoria Leonardo maybe ever so slightly a tidbit bigger, but with the strength and the muscle that Gatto seems to have put on, the work she's put into her wrestling game, she was far more imposing than I expected. And this is a spot that I've been looking at all week that I lean towards Gatto. I kind of wish I had bet her when never mind. She opened up the favorite here. I apologize. Now that this line has closed down to about a pick'em price tag, minus 110, minus plus 100 in some places on Melissa Gatto. That's the way that I would be looking here. I think that she's got the jiu-jitsu advantage. Obviously, they're the same belt level in jiu-jitsu, but I think that Melissa Gatto has the more deadly submission offense. If you watch the way that they grapple, she's definitely more looking for the hunt. And like I said, she has absolutely been working on her wrestling. She is not going to get bullied by Victoria Leonardo like I kind of thought she would earlier because of the size, the strength, the wrestling work that she's been putting in. I definitely feel like this is a buy low spot on Gatto. The bookies had her listed as a much higher favorite earlier in the week. Money's come in on the dog to drive this thing down. Now might be the time to stand in front of the market, and I'm extremely tempted on Gatto. And in one of my Hail Mary parlays, I'm absolutely going to have Gatto inside the distance or by submission. Next fight up, Miles Johns taking on Anderson Dos Santos. Thank goodness no weight cut issues on this one. Both guys make it to the cage. Miles Johns 136, Anderson Dos Santos 135.5. Johns was extremely relaxed, just never in doubt. He came in, he made weight, great shape, looking good. No questions about this guy. Anderson Dos Santos, however, he looked a little bit rough and he looked a little bit nervous, but as soon as they read out the 135.5 and he realized he made weight, he completely changed his demeanor. And that's something that I kind of look for, that struggling, dejected, this was a tough weight cut, but as soon as he got the stress off his back of making weight, he was a new man and you could see him completely light up. He had plenty of energy. His balance was there. His movement was there. So not a rough weight cut in my opinion at all. He looked absolutely fine. They get up to the face-offs, and this was a great face-off. This was extremely intense. Dos Santos stepped in on Miles Johns. This guy is ready to go. What we've got is a big favorite in Miles Johns, minus 220, minus 225 to come back on Dos Santos, plus 175, plus 180. And this is a very clear dogger pass situation for me. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I am very tempted on Anderson Dos Santos, and I'm probably going to sprinkle that round 3 for Anderson Dos Santos. That was the bet that I made last time, and this week, just like last time, the longer the week goes on, the more I feel like the dog is live here. I'm not a huge fan of what I see from Miles Johns. He gasses out in round 3, and that's kind of a big key here, is that Dos Santos is a finisher, and John slows down the longer the fight goes on. So if this thing gets into round 3 territory, I expect Miles to be up on the scorecards, Anderson Dos Santos to need that finish, and then to go for broke in that third round trying to get it. Dos Santos maybe catching a neck when Miles Johns comes in for a takedown or something like that. So I'm definitely going to round 3 sprinkle on Anderson Dos Santos. Am I going to bet the money line at plus 180? That I'm not so sure about. So next fight up, we've got Manal Cape taking on Ode Osborne. This is where things get interesting, folks. Manal Cape misses weight. He comes in at 129 pounds for his 125-pound fight, and he asked for the box immediately. He knew he was not going to make weight. He looked a little bit rough, and it was kind of a bad miss in my opinion. Ode Osborne dropping to 125 for the first time in his career, working like a professional up there. Looked excellent, absolutely shredded, moved extremely well. There were no issues. There was no scare. He hit 125 on the dot, and he looked excellent doing it. So this has been a hot topic online because there are people that have different views about missing weight. For me personally, I try to fade people that miss weight because generally speaking, I think that they had a rough weight cut, they had some kind of physical issue that went wrong, and even though they're a little bit heavier, they're probably still a little bit damaged from that weight cut anyway. But there are certain circumstances where the weight cut is intentional. Unfortunately, fighters are looking for an advantage basically anywhere that they can get one, and sometimes you have to accept the fact that a fighter comes in heavy purposefully. And I think that's maybe what we have here with Manal Cape, because this guy, he's 0-2, his back is against the wall here with the UFC promotion. He does nothing but run his mouth, and so far he's dropped 2 fights, even though I feel like he won his last one. His record shows 0-2, and if he's going to have any respect in the UFC whatsoever, he's got to get a win on Saturday. They may well cut him. I don't think so. I think they'll give him at least one more shot because he's such a big name and he's an exciting fighter to watch. But if he doesn't get the win on Saturday, he's in a very, very bad position. So I do think there is some credence to him having come in heavy in this spot, just trying to get that extra little advantage over a guy. When they faced off, Cape was talking. He rolled up wearing the sunglasses, which is something I hate, by the way, at weigh-ins. And he started talking immediately to Osborne. And that's a bitch move, guys. Like, I'm sorry. There is no two ways about it. You don't come in heavy and then talk shit at your opponent. Like, your opponent signed on the dotted line for a certain specific weight for a fight, and then you mess up. You don't be a professional. You come in heavy, and you're gonna run your mouth? Like, that doesn't sit well with me. Now, Manal Cape is obviously thicker than Ode Osborne. Ode is longer, he's skinnier, he's slimmer. I think this is going to be a great fight. I've got 2 units on Ode Osborne. I've got him at plus 175 from a little bit earlier in the week. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't sweating bullets right now, because I think Manel Kape is a great fighter. This bet is essentially a abusement of the line being too wide. I don't think that this line should be as wide as it is. But with Manel Kape being the exact kind of person that would take the advantage of the weight, and then it appears that he did stop his weight cut early to make sure he's got some extra gas in the tank. He'll be able to wrestle longer. He'll be able to hit harder, sit down on his punches heavier. He's going to have an advantage because of that extra couple of pounds. And I'm not liking it. I'm working on being team no hedge over here, so I don't think I'm going to do anything with it. Plus, the line doesn't really make it very. It's not a good line. It's not a good spot for me to hedge out here because Manel Kape is a minus 200 favorite. So I'd have to take a sprinkle on Kape inside the distance by knockout or something like that, which I could do. But here's my problem. Manel Kape, you cannot rely on this guy's fight IQ. He's going to come out, he's going to fight, he's going to swing, and that's why I bet Ode Osborne in the first place, is that if Manel Kape, if you could put Trevor Whitman behind a Xbox 360 controller and have him play Manel Kape, he would win every single damn time. He's got all the skills, he's got all the abilities, he's physically gifted, but he makes the wrong decisions in the fight. And I think that makes this thing a whole hell of a lot closer, even with the weight advantage. So I'm just going to let it ride. I've got 2 units on Ode Osborne. I am extremely uncomfortable with it, but I'm absolutely going to let it ride and hope my guy comes through. And I'm going to also hope that that weight cut wasn't intentional and maybe Manel Kape is a little bit worse for the wear that he's leading on. Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Jessica Penne. Kowalkiewicz came in at 115 on the dot. Jessica Penne made 116. Karolina, we haven't seen her in a long time, and honestly, she gave a huge flex. She also has looked like she's been in the gym. She added some muscle. She looked really good on the scales today. Jessica Penne, business as usual. She's kind of a tall, slim build, never physically imposing or anything like that, so business as usual there. Good face-off, very respectful. These ladies are not, trash talking or anything like that. We never expect to see that. Jessica Penne, slight height and reach advantage as expected. The longer this week goes on, the more I feel like Karolina wouldn't have returned if she had any doubts about herself. So I kind of want to bet Karolina. The only problem is the money has come in on her, and I really don't want to lay minus 140 on her. The fact that Jessica Penne has a height and a reach advantage, and she also likes to backpack people in the grappling, I don't like that. You could see this one slipping away. Texas judging, be very careful. There are going to be a lot of robbery cries this weekend. There's going to be a lot of bad decisions, so everyone be very, very careful. And this is not a fight I feel like I need to have my hard-earned money on. Next fight up, Alonzo Menifield taking on Ed Herman. Menifield came in at 204.5. Herman came in at 205.5. And this is another interesting weigh-in here. So first off, Atomic Alonzo Menifield. They call that man Atomic for a reason. Holy shit, the guy looks like he was bit by a radioactive spider. He's a brick shit house. He looked extremely comfortable on the scales today. No problems whatsoever from his end making weight. Now, Ed Herman, on the other hand, he needed the box of shame immediately. He walked up there, and he looked massively relieved when they read off 205.5. Now, he is getting towards the end of his career, so he doesn't cut a lot of weight anymore. He used to fight at 185, and now he's moved up to 205 because he just can't handle it anymore. He's not long for the UFC. Is short fuse, unfortunately, and I'm an OG Ed Herman fan. The first redhead I ever fell in love with was Ed Short Fuse Herman, so this is a bit of a bad spot for me. Now, a lot of people online were immediately tweeting at me, being like, "Are you fading Ed Herman? I'm surprised you haven't bet Alonzo Menifield already because he looked so bad at the scales." And I'll be honest with you guys, that was just Ed Herman's face. He just looks like that. Like, yes, he had a bit of a close call on the weight cut. He probably just got out of the sauna. He probably just got off the treadmill. He did look tired. He did look relieved when they read the weight off. But Ed always looks like he's coming off of a 3-day Jack and Coke bender. Like, that's just... At this stage of his career, that's just what Ed looks like. So honestly, I don't think it was as bad of a deal for Ed specifically as people are making it out to be, because he just never looks good. So when they get to the face-off, Ed looks like he did pretty well. He looks like he's much, much better after he got some water, some fluid in him. So I think he's recovered from this thing relatively decently. There's a decent size advantage for Ed Herman in this spot. He's actually the bigger man over Alonzo Menifield. The only difference is Alonzo Menifield is a brick shithouse, and he's about twice as wide as a normal human being should be. This is a spot that I was very intrigued in the under 1.5. I think it's got violence written all over it because Ed Short Fuse almost died his last fight out. We saw him barely survive that spot, and Alonzo Menifield is a round one or bust fighter. So Alonzo's going to go for the kill in round one. Ed is not as durable as he used to be, so he probably gets knocked out in the first round. But then when Alonzo Menifield can't quite get the finish, Ed is more skilled than him everywhere. He likes to attack the body. He's got big clinch knees. I can absolutely see him hurting and putting down Alonzo Menifield. And I also think the club and sub is absolutely available here because we've seen Alonzo Menifield just be out of sorts when it hits the mat before against people that are competent grapplers. Ed Herman is the better fighter everywhere. This would be a dog or pass position for me. It's hard to trust a guy like Ed Herman even at this number because of the stage of life that he's in. So far this one is a pass for me. Don't be shocked if I end up sprinkling Ed Herman. Don't be shocked if I end up putting Ed Herman by submission in one of my Hail Mary parlays or something. But I think fight doesn't go the distance is about the only safe play that you can make on this particular one. And the under 1.5 I don't think is a half bad bet. Vince Morales taking on Drako Rodriguez. Both men came in at 136. Vince Morales had a very quick and efficient weigh-in. Kid was extremely focused, looked great physically. Drako Rodriguez, on the other hand, he got up there, and this one, it had me a little bit irked. I tweeted about it today because whoever was operating the scale didn't want a single fight canceled on this card because Drako Rodriguez steps up there, and the thing is doing this. And there's no way you can tell whether or not he made weight. I think he was probably a bit over. He was motioning for the box of shame. He thought he was going to need to use that to make weight. And the guy just walks up, goes, 136! Like, he didn't give it any time to settle. He didn't give it the opportunity. And then he just called off the weight like everything was fine. So I actually think Drako Rodriguez missed weight in this spot. Now, he didn't look bad. He didn't look sucked out or anything. He probably would have taken his shorts off and made weight just fine inside the box of shame. But the fact is, it kind of irks me that they gave him a free pass here. At any rate, we have a good face-off. These guys are both intense. Both guys are ready to go in this spot. Decent size and thickness advantage for my guy, Vince Morales. Now, I'm in a bit of a tough spot here because I have been cheering for Vince Morales. I have been betting Vince Morales for his last couple of fights, and he's a guy that I have had nothing but respect for, and I've tried to talk up, even though he ended up going 1-3 in his last 4. I think he won his last fight, so he should be 2-2. And here I am hesitant to back him against Drako Rodriguez, a guy that I think is way overhyped and a guy that we've seen have some chin issues. So I'm very tempted on Vince Morales here. He was plus 120 earlier in the week. I kind of wish I had grabbed some of that. He's about even money now or minus 105 in certain spots. So it's a pick'em price tag. It's a pick'em for a reason. You know, these guys both have skills. These guys both are questionable. These guys both are very green and need some seasoning. Everything I saw at the face-offs today, I think Vince Morales has a size and a physicality advantage in this spot. I also think that Drako Rodriguez has a questionable chin. The only problem is Vince Morales has a questionable fight IQ. He makes some bad decisions, and he doesn't ever use his grappling in the cage. So I am very much leaning Vince Morales. I'm very tempted by Vince Morales, but at this point, I don't have a bet. Next up, Bobby Green taking on Rafael Fiziev. Bobby Green came in at 156. Fiziev came in at 155.5. Now, Bobby Green walked onto the scale with classic Bobby Green attitude. Never in question. Dude is a consummate professional. He will die trying to make that weight cut. No problems there. Rafael Fiziev is a little tank. This dude is shredded. He gets up there making faces, massive flex, really showing off for the crowd. He looked good. This was a very intense face-off. Both guys were jawing at each other. They size up extremely well. Obviously, Rafael Fiziev is much thicker than Bobby Green. Bobby Green is built for speed. That man has a gas tank for days. So he's a little bit slimmer. He's a little bit skinnier, but he's got good technical striking and grappling to back it all up. This is a spot that a lot of people have given me a lot of shit over, but I'm on Bobby Green. I did go ahead and take the shot at plus 240 because let's face it, Bobby Green shouldn't be this big of an underdog against anybody. Now, I know this is the spot on the card where everyone is saying Rafael Fiziev is going to win the fight, end story, over, done. And that's just not how sports betting works. We're talking percentages. We're talking a certain line equals a certain amount of opportunity to win the fight percentage-wise. And this is a fight that opened minus 140 Rafael Fiziev and plus 120 for Bobby Green. I agree with that line. That's much better. That's much closer. You definitely take Rafael Fiziev at that line. But all the people that are hammering him and pounding him and parlaying him at minus 200, minus 250, minus 300, it's just out of control. He doesn't have a 90% probability of winning this fight. I'm sorry. He is fighting a man who is notoriously hard to put away. So everyone thinking that Rafael Fiziev is just going to knock Bobby Green dead, could he? Yes, he's an incredible talent. He's an incredible striker. I absolutely think that he is the real deal. But will he finish Bobby Green on the feet? I doubt it, because Bobby Green has a history of grinding tooth and nail to stay in fights. That's what this guy does. He's a Diaz brother, all right? He doesn't go down easy. Rafael Fiziev is never submitting Bobby Green. That's just not happening. Bobby Green has a grappling advantage in this spot, in my opinion, and he's probably going to have a volume edge as well. So as long as he can take some of the heat coming from Rafael Fiziev, he's going to be in this fight. He's going to make it close, and Bobby Green has a tendency of going to split decisions. If you tell me this thing is going to go to a split in Texas where the judging may be bad or wrong, I'll take plus 240 on the guy that's going to make it close every single time. So I'm on Bobby Green. I think this is going to be a great fight. Just one unit at plus 240. Song Yadong taking on Kenney. Song Yadong came in at 135.5. Kenney hit 136. Song Yadong wearing sunglasses. Son of a bitch. I hate when they do that. They're hiding something. No, he looked physically incredible. He's always in excellent shape. He trains out of Team Alpha Male. What do you expect? Kenney came in. He did need the box of shame. However, he looked good. He was smiling. He was flexing. He was showing off. He knew he was going to need the box of shame, and it was going to be close. I think he just was ready to be done with his weight cut and took his chances, and it worked out this time. He didn't look like he had a rough weight cut or anything like that, so I don't have any concerns with him needing the box of shame. Both guys were touching each other at the face-offs. Dana White was freaking out trying to get between them, because most people, when you put your fist on their jaw, they're not going to take kindly to that, and there's going to be some kind of a brawl at the face-offs, but both these guys were smiling ear to ear and doing it to each other, so all in good fun. Both guys having a good time. It was a really fun face-off. Size advantage goes to Song Yadong. We know that coming in here. Kenney is built for speed. I have no questions about this guy's gas tank, and I think he's got a higher ceiling, so I did lay 1.15 units to win one at minus 115 on Kenney. One of my smaller bets on the card, but one I feel like I had to make. Tecia Torres taking on Angela Overkill Hill. Both women came in at 115. Tecia Torres is an absolute tank, and she is in incredible shape for this fight card. Angela Hill looked fantastic. She is shredded. She is confident, and she gets to keep her hair for this one. Fun little note, she always puts out tweets and stuff like that, and I guess when the weight cut gets close, if she's having problems, she just shaves it all off. That's when we see the short fro or the bald Angela Hill, is when she's having a bad time on the weight cut. She kept her braids this week, so everything must have gone very, very well. Intense face-off. Angela Hill, even though these women keep on saying there's no bad blood, there's no tension here, there's definitely tension here. Angela Hill looked mean. There was a very forced pat on the back by Tecia Torres after they kind of did the half-respectful embrace. These chicks don't like each other, plain and simple. The height and reach goes to Angela Hill. Tecia is thick. So yeah, she's going to be the more physically powerful of the two. I'm on Angela Hill here, folks. I think this line is way recency bias. I think getting her at plus 115 is a criminal, and the people laying minus 145, minus 150 on Tecia Torres are nuts. This fight is going to be close. We are in Texas where they don't really like grappling. Angela Hill is going to be the one moving forward, pressing the action, trying to get in the face of Tecia Torres, and I think Angela Hill is miles apart from where she was when they fought the first time. I don't think Tecia Torres is going to be able to just take her down and sit on her chest and grind this fight out. That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe that that's going to take place. I think it's going to take place mostly on the feet. Tecia Torres has been working on her striking a lot. I think she'll want to show some of that off, and I think Angela Hill will be more than happy to engage her in that realm. I think that favors Angela Hill a lot in this spot. So Tecia Torres getting 2 wins over UFC debutantes doesn't impress me as much as apparently it impresses anybody else. I think the wrong fighter's favored, simply put. So 2 units at plus 115. I see more money is coming in on Tecia Torres, which is widening that line even further. I'm a little surprised and a little disappointed. If I'm free rolling by this point of the night, folks, if I'm winning my bets up until this spot, and I can get Angela Hill at plus 130 or plus 140, I will absolutely put another unit on her come fight time. Michael Chiesa taking on Vicente Luque. Sorry, getting all excited there talking about laying 3 units on an underdog. Michael Chiesa came in at 170.5. Vicente Luque 170 on the dot. Michael Chiesa was talking to the people in the crowd before he got up on the scale. He was in great shape, gave multiple different flexes. This guy's really feeling himself and definitely belongs up at 170. It's not even an easy weight cut for him now. He's moved up a full freaking weight class. Vicente Luque, absolutely on point, no issues. This guy is perfectly suited for 170. We've seen him make it time and time again. He was locked in. Both guys are fired up. When they got into each other's faces, it was intense. They're both eyes locked. This is going to be a crazy intense fight, in my opinion. Big size advantage for Michael Chiesa, and I think really that's what shifts this thing. I think the size and the strength for Michael Chiesa is going to be the deciding factor. I think I got plus 110 on Michael Chiesa, and I did play 2 units on him there because, again, what I'm doing is I'm laying bigger bets on fights where the underdog should be the favorite, in my opinion. I'm just testing it out. So generally speaking, I haven't bet this way in the past. This is a test run on it to see how it goes over a short sample size. So UFC 265 may be very costly for me if I'm wrong on these. But I do have 2 units on Michael Chiesa plus 110. Jose Aldo taking on Pedro Munhoz. Aldo came in at 136, Munhoz 135. Jose Aldo absolutely shredded as usual. Somehow he keeps making this weight cut. I don't know how he does it. He is sucked out as always, and he looks like death on the scales, but he blows up just fine afterward. I have learned not to question Jose Aldo based on his look on the scales at these weigh-ins. Pedro Munhoz looked excellent, however. No issues. The only thing that I noticed about Pedro Munhoz was he did the rapid blinking thing sometimes. I gotta go back. I feel like that's maybe a Pedro Munhoz thing. I feel like maybe he does that more often than I expect. I'd need to watch some of his previous weigh-ins again, but that's a sign that I actually look out for a bad weight cut, is when someone gets up there and the bright lights are really bothering them. They blink a ton. Now, he didn't blink like rapidly a bunch of times. It was just for a quick flutter for a second. So I'm not reading too far into it, but like I said, I chop these things up and I look for every single little detail to pass along to you guys. So I want to make mention of it that he did in fact blink a little more than I would expect him to once he got up there on the scales. Aldo has a size advantage, obviously. This was a great face-off. Both these guys are very confident in themselves. It's Brazilian versus Brazilian, legend versus damn near legend at this point. Munhoz is getting towards Cowboy Cerrone material, in my opinion, the way he takes a fight with anybody, anywhere, and then just goes to war. Oh, I did go ahead and bet Pedro Munhoz in this spot. I got minus 105, and I did 2.2 units, I think, to win 2 at minus 105, or 2.1 units to win 2 at minus 105. I'm just looking to fade Jose Aldo. I think eventually my read is going to be right, and if I keep betting against him, eventually I'm going to be correct. Jose Aldo has been struggling more and more and more in each fight. He's been slowing down more and more and more in each fight. After about 7.5 minutes, he used to be able to go 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Now he goes 8. Now he goes 7. Like, he slows down drastically in the second round if he doesn't get you out of there in the first. And if there's any man whose chin I want to bank on, it's Pedro Munhoz. So I am more than willing to bet on the fact that Pedro Munhoz will give up that first round more than likely and win rounds 2 and 3, potentially chop down the tree and get Jose Aldo there in the third round. I've got that third round sprinkle on my guy Pedro Munhoz at 17-1. So hopefully we hit one of these third rounders. It would be pretty sweet for UFC 265 to hit a payday. Main event time, everybody. Derrick Lewis taking on Ciryl Gane. Derrick Lewis came in at 264.5. This man tips the heavyweight limit. Ciryl Gane came in at 247, which is normal for him since he's been in the UFC. He's been getting lighter and lighter in his last 3 fights or so. He's been right around this 247 mark. He definitely emphasizes the speed rather than the weight. Now, Derrick Lewis, classic Derrick Lewis. He doesn't look any different than ever. The dude is a mountain of a human being. Ciryl Gane was created in a lab next to Captain America and Yoel Romero. This guy's physique is something else. It's not fair. When they faced off, this is where it gets interesting. I've never seen Derrick Lewis like this. I don't know if it's because he's in front of his hometown crowd. I don't know if it's because he finally decided he wants to be the champion. Like, I don't know what's going on with Derrick Lewis, but he walked through Ciryl Gane. Like, he didn't stop when they got to face-off posture. He just continued walking until he, like, pushed Gane over. Now, of course, everyone had to dive in at that point and keep these guys separated. Ciryl Gane didn't look phased whatsoever. He was seeming very confused by this action. He wasn't retaliating. He wasn't hitting him back or anything like that. But Dana White was hanging on to Derrick Lewis for dear life, trying to hold this man back. That actually was pretty hilarious because Dana White stands no chance of holding Derrick Lewis back if he wants to go somewhere. It was funnier when Derrick Lewis stole the belt from Dana White because you could see Dana just be like, fuck, all right. Like, he can play keep away with someone like Conor McGregor trying to, like, keep him from the belt. But if Derrick Lewis wants the belt, Derrick Lewis is taking the belt. But at the face-offs, Gane looked extremely confused by all of this, and I've never seen Derrick Lewis go this hard on somebody. I've never seen him be this intense. He even showed Gane the right hand. Like, he got up there and he said something to him, and he brought his right hand up and was like, this one. Like, he's calling his shot here. Derrick Lewis legitimately feels like he's going to win this fight, and he's making a statement by the way that he is acting here. Now, I do not want you to rush out and bet Derrick Lewis because a lot of people are doing that. You can see the line movement already. A lot of people are piling on. They feel like the line is wide. Realistically, he still just has a puncher's chance. Now, if he comes out angry and motivated like this, maybe he does have more of a puncher's chance. But Derrick Lewis is never winning this fight in any way other than knockout. So play the knockout prop if you're going to bet on Derrick Lewis. There is no point in taking a plus 270 money line if you can get a plus 400 knockout. That's the only way he wins. I really do think that Ciryl Gane is going to win this fight. I think Ciryl Gane is going to make it hard for Lewis to touch him. I think he's going to attack the body with long kicks and knees. We've seen Derrick Lewis hurt to the body before. And when this fight gets extended, round 3, round 4, round 5, that's the territory that Lewis is not comfortable with. That's the territory where he definitely slows down, and we have Ciryl Gane do nothing but excel in those later rounds. I think that the club and sub is on the table for Ciryl Gane. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get that 10-1 that we saw at the opener when I talked about it on Monday. Most of the books have opened up, and it's much lower than that. It's around plus 650 or so right now. I still don't hate that. I definitely think that that's worth a sprinkle. Ciryl Gane inside the distance at even money or plus 105, I definitely think is the move. But what I did is I just big boyed up. I just hammered up. We're going to lay the minus 190 on the fight doesn't go the distance. And the more I watch this thing, sometimes I do the overs where I'm like over 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 on the fights that everyone is expecting to get finished. I kind of want to do the reverse here because they've got the line set at 3.5. For these big boy heavyweights with Derrick Lewis angry, pissed off, looking for the knockout, they're giving you 3.5 rounds at a pick'em. I want to go, doesn't go the distance, under 4.5, under 3.5, under 2.5, under 1.5, and you start with a big bet and you sprinkle a little bit lower the further down the chain that you go, and then you just root for a round 1 knockout. Like that would be a real fun way to play this main event. I've got the doesn't go the distance, and I've got a ton of action on this card, so that's the only thing keeping me off of doing that is how much I've already loaded up on the other fights on this card. So if I'm free rolling by the main event, if I've got the opportunity to add bets on by the end of the night, I probably will add the under 4.5, the under 3.5, maybe even the under 2.5 and under 1.5, and just look for straight violence out of Derrick Lewis. The way he is acting, I think he's going to push the pace, and I think that's going to force the action in a manner that we haven't seen out of Derrick Lewis or Ciryl Gane recently. I also think Ciryl Gane wants to make a statement. I think he's ready to be the champion. He wants to be the champion, and he wants to prove it over a dangerous opponent like Derrick Lewis, who he doesn't feel is on his level. That's the Undefeated post-weigh-in show, folks. I think we had some good information this week. Even though most people came on point, there was only one weight miss. There was actually a lot to dig into. So this was a nice, long, good, solid show. I've got a lot of bets on this one, so I don't have many pure weigh-in reads on this one. I guess Ed Herman not looking as bad as maybe people think he did is one of the main post-weigh-in reads. I think that dog or pass in that spot or violence bet in that spot would be the way to go. I think Manel Cape potentially faking or offering to give up the 20% of his purse so he has an advantage is something to consider. If you're not going to go with me on Ode, I totally understand that. Maybe bet the under. Maybe the under is a better spot there because Manel Cape is known for knocking people out, and Ode Osborne is known to be a round 1 fighter himself. If they go to war and Manel Cape is sitting harder on his punches, there's a chance this thing finishes violently and early. Anderson Dos Santos, maybe that late round 3 sprinkle. That's the same as previously. Melissa Gatto being much bigger than I anticipated is a read, and I would say may potentially end up forcing a bet out of me on this one. I do think Melissa Gatto has some advantages. I think the UFC is high on her, even though she's jumping in a little deeper than most people expect. And then that's about it, because everybody else pretty much came in on point, if we're being honest. So I just kind of no opinion on a lot of these weigh-ins because I've already got pre-flop reads that don't get changed by the way people come in, since everyone's coming in on point, and I know better than to second guess José Aldo because he looks bad on the scales. He always does. That's the post weigh-in show, folks. That is the Undefeated post weigh-in show. Good luck on all your action this week. Like I said, do me a favor, toss me a like here, hit me up with your favorite bet in the comment section below, and we will see you at the fights tomorrow, UFC 265. Good luck. Let's roll.